Hi, I think what we're going to do is continue on from my last video when I talked about taking a energy product, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background on where I came from with nutrition, a little bit more, and how I learned what nutrition could do for you, and it became a major surprise to me, as I only took the energy product as I was talking at the very beginning. And even with that, I learned that there was some things changing for me. Some of the herbal supplements, the herbal ingredients in this product were doing some major things for me, like clearing up my sinuses, which I always had sinus problems. Being in the beauty business for years, that was one of the things that I'm sure a lot of hairdressers deal with, being around any kind of chemicals. The other thing that I would always get was yeast infections, sinus infections, bladder infections. I remember getting bladder infections to the point where it would be up and over the number 10. They gauge them by how bad they are by the number, and the doctor had said to me at one point that it was over the 10, and that was very serious. So those are the kind of things that I was dealing with. And did you ever wake up in the morning and feel like you have brain fog? That's what I call it. It's brain fog, like your head is just not clear and you just like, okay, I need my cup of coffee. Well, I'm not a coffee drinker. So taking my energy product really helped me. And those didn't help every one of those things I'm mentioning, but the sinuses started clearing up. I didn't get sinus infections anymore. It was very interesting what was going on. So one thing led to another, and as I mentioned, I ended up in the nutrition business and opened my own company. I have a partner. We opened in the year 2000. We've been around for a long time. I'm not here to tell you about the company. I'm here to tell you my experience. And three of the products that we started with was an energy. Well, we started with an energy product, that was for sure. And then we picked out three products that we felt that would build the immune system. We worked with very reputable manufacturers. And so I started taking the three products that we believed would build the immune system. We had read a lot. We had learned a lot. We were around nutritional people and we're learning more and more every day. And one of the things that I started taking was aloe. And I mentioned that before. I drink my aloe every day. The other thing that I started taking was an antioxidant, and I took that every day. Didn't quite know 100% why I was taking it because it's not one of those impact products like the energy, but I read that it was supposed to be really good for you, and so I thought, well, I was starting to get into this, and then I decided I would take the probiotic. We had a probiotic formulated, and I started taking that. I probably wasn't as religious with that, but it would take away that brain fog if you would take it on a regular basis. And I wasn't 100% sold on it at the beginning myself, that I needed it. Of course, you just think that, it was not super important, but it was important. But I did try to take at least once a day those things, and I drank my aloe twice a day. And I took my energy, boy, I didn't want to miss that. And I also took a vitamin. And what I realized as time was going on was I wasn't getting sinus infections anymore. I wasn't getting bladder infections anymore. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've ever had a bladder infection. I didn't feel that brain fog in the morning. I was starting to feel clarity of mind. Ear infections, well, that just wasn't part of my life. And what I started learning about this was that this could really help people. One of the first experiences I had, and I'm going to end this video today with this because my mother, who has passed away at this point, she lived to be 92. She took her energy product every day. I miss her very much. But my mother had what was called trigeminal neuralgia. And she called me one day and said, well, let me back this up. She had had some surgery for this trigeminal neuralgia. It was a really new surgery, and what they do is they put a solution around that nerve. It's when the sheath of the nerve wears off, and they put they inject it with a needle to keep those two nerves from touching. It's called trigeminal neuralgia. It's a very serious, painful, way more than you can even explain. And she called me one day. They told her that this surgery she had would only last for 4 years. And by that time I was into nutrition. So that was when she had called me. It was after the 4 years had lapsed, and she called me and she said, Gloria, I think I'm getting the pain back. And I said, Mama, I'm working right now, but, well, I'll take you to the emergency room. Let me just finish what I'm doing and go ahead and take the supplement the antioxidant that I had mentioned. I says, would you just please take that and take some aloe. Take 2 of those and try that every hour, because there's no lethal dose of what that was. They've tested that, and there is no lethal dose. So she did. She took 2, and I thought, man, she's going to be calling me in another 5 minutes or so, because that pain is just unbelievable. But funny as it was, she didn't call me. So I got done with the lady I was doing, and I called her up, and I said, Mom, are you okay? And she says, yeah. She says, the pain went away. And I says, okay. And so what she explained to me, she was taking it every hour at that point, but she started backing off. And she settled down to taking 2 in the morning and 2 at night, and she wasn't feeling the pain anymore. And she said she knows that aura. She knew when it was coming on. If it was coming on, she would take 1. But she really was finding that the 4 a day was keeping it down. And I have to tell you that we went 10 years after that 4-year period. 10 years that it stretched it. That is a type of illness, I guess we'll call it an illness, that does return, but that gave her time. And while she was taking that antioxidant, there's many other things that it can do for you. But that was my huge, huge eye-opener. Huge. And I realized at that point that there was a way more to nutrition that I could ever tell you. But where does that go with Candida? Well, I believe that Candida plays a big part in a lot of things. I've read in the book that I mentioned to you in the last video. It was called The Yeast Connection. And the doctor that wrote it was Dr. Crook. Before he finished that book, before he actually had it in print, because he was working with some people some doctors, and he had them testing the things that he talked about to ease up on Candida Candida albicans is what it's called. And he found there was a major yeast connection to a lot of illnesses. So before he had this book in print, it was already outdated. He was ready to now put out another book because the doctors were coming to him and saying, people that I couldn't even cure before and ease up on their pains, this dealing with the Candida albicans and going on a Candida diet was making a major change in people's lives. So he has written many books since. One of the other ones that he wrote is Women and the Yeast Connection, Men and the Yeast Connection. I mean, there's many. But I will tell you that had made a major difference in my mother's life. And I'm sure that, the yeast was playing a big part in her life. My mother had a lot of stress at one point in her life. And stress, remember, is one of the major things that raise the yeast in your system. Okay? So I'm going to stop there. And tomorrow I'll bring you a little bit more information about yeast. There's so much to tell you. And I believe that if you hear some of these stories, you might open your eyes to some of the things that will help you. And yeast, Candida yeast. And there are diets that you can go on to reduce the yeast in your system. And we'll talk about that. It's a very strong bacteria, not a very friendly bacteria at that. So with that, I will talk to you soon. For now, this is Gloria Jean. Bye now.